Hello, welcome to Stories in Time. My name is Eloise Schottler. I'm very glad you're here. I'll be your storyteller for today. I was with a group of people last week, and we're a memoir group. And the leader threw out the question of food memories. And so we were talking about food memories as they might bring up different types of times from your life. Do you ever do that? Well, I liked it. I've got a few memories to share with you today, and I thought I would do that in a way that after the program, maybe it will prompt you to sit down and jot down a few special recipes or tastes of food that you remember. Well, first off, maybe you're like me. I remembered first PB&J, peanut butter and jelly. When I was a little toddler, that was always available at home, and my mother used white Wonder Bread. Do you remember that? It's not so popular anymore, Wonder Bread. But if I went to my grandmother's, she had homemade jelly, and she had homemade bread. And she'd put a little peanut butter on it, but mostly she'd put a lot of jelly. And she'd give me a glass of milk with it. That was delicious. Now, after that, after thinking about that cold milk that Granny would take out of her refrigerator, I remembered another time when I was a little or littler that I liked cold milk. It was 1944. I was 8 years old. Polio had just rolled through Charlotte and terrified everyone. Because, you know, it was something that sought the children. It was contagious and it went for the children. My mother got so afraid. My father was overseas, World War II, and she had to work, so she called the Mother Superior of the Sisters of Mercy at their mother house out in Belmont. That was 15 miles away. My father's family was a long-time North Carolina Catholic family, and they were friends of the family who were Sisters of Mercy at Sacred Heart. And Mother Benignus agreed that Linda and I could come out there for the summer. The mother house was a farm, actually. There was a school there, a boarding school where kids came, but they had all gone home for the summer, so it was just the nuns and us. I was 8, and my sister was 5½. Now, the nuns didn't have classes going. They only had the two of us, and we had to be monitored. We were on a big farm, after all, and we could have gotten into trouble. So they assigned us to Sister Mary Loyola. Sister Loyola was the 3rd grade teacher. But Sister Loyola was so close to us because she only was 4'1". She was almost the same height that we were. She was a little teeny sister. Every morning she picked Linda and I up from the dormitory and took us to what they called the refectory for breakfast. It was a huge room with long tables, and it looked even bigger when we were there with only 2 of us sitting at one of those long tables to eat our breakfast. Then she'd take us out, and we were to help her with any of her chores. Now, part of her chores was to take the vegetables that had been picked the day before or the day before that and to attend to them so that they would be ready to cook or to can. And that meant that we would sit in a little gazebo out in the schoolyard. She'd have a big bowl in her lap They wore the long habits then, so she had a great holder for that bowl. It was her skirt that sort of made a big dip and held the bowl, and we'd sit there with her while she taught us our prayers or read us stories. We did things like snapping string beans, shelling peas, peeling peaches, pulling the tops off of strawberries, anything that required those little hands to pull it together so that it could be washed and cooked and canned. We started early. Sister Loyola came and got us very early, and then we went to the refectory and we ate breakfast, and then here we were outside. So at 10 o'clock, we stopped for a break. And Sister Loyola would walk us around the back of the building to a doorway that had 5 concrete steps and double screen doors. And we learned pretty quick that that was the kitchen. Sister Manyard would come out. She was a tall, rangy looking woman. She was the head cook. She was wearing her long habit, but she had pinned the veil back and pinned it together so that it wouldn't get in the way or flop into the food. And she tucked up her skirts and then put a long apron around it. Sister Loyola would ring a bell, and Sister Manyard would open the door. She was ready for us. She handed Sister Loyola a tray, a metal tray. And on that tray were napkins. On the napkins were big, wide, thick slices of homemade bread with about an inch of jelly sitting on the top of it. And next to each piece of that bread was a tin cup, a cold tin cup that was filled with fresh milk, milked this morning. Oh my goodness. I can still taste that. I can still see that whole setting. It's gone now, of course, but not in my mind. And I bet you have places just like that that are held tight in your mind. And if you prick them, they'll come alive. My mother had a favorite recipe. She hadn't gotten it out of a cookbook. Nobody had given it to her. When she was a young secretary working downtown Charlotte, North Carolina, her favorite place to go was the S&W Cafe on Trade Street. The S&W was a dining room, but it was one of those that has a long line, and you pick up your tray and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then it's a cafeteria. You go down the line and there are all these wonderful dishes in front of you to choose from. Mother's favorite was the macaroni salad at the S&W Cafe, and she ate it every day for a year and a half until she had figured out exactly how to reproduce that salad. She couldn't get it for quite a while because there was one little ingredient that she couldn't quite get her taste buds on, but it was the magic that made it all happen. Let me tell you what's in that salad. It's macaronis, cooked of course, macaronis, then put in a bowl after they've cooled, and then you chop up Spanish olives. You know, the green olives that have a piece of red pimento stuffed in the center. You slice those, plenty of them, because they taste so good. And you drop that in with the macaroni. Then you take rat cheese or mild cheddar cheese and cut it into little teeny cubes, and you put that in. Onion, onion, small diced, that, salt and pepper, and Duke's mayonnaise. But if you do it that way, you won't have the real thing. The real thing starts at the beginning, where you take your salad bowl and rub it lightly with butter. And then take a clove of garlic, cut it, and you rub that garlic on the bowl so that you don't get too much, you get just enough. That's the secret. The other secret is that you mix it up with Duke's mayonnaise. The rest of them, it's not going to do it. It's got to be Duke's mayonnaise. I got a taste for that in my mouth last week after we had our conversation about food, and I made myself a huge, big bowl of it and ate it. Small bits at a time, but I ate it all myself for 3 days. Now, I've eaten in a lot of different places in all these years. My palate has broadened. I have appreciation for fancy foods, but I really like simple foods. And the meal, the lunch, the South Carolina lunch that I had 15 years ago is my most favorite one. I had found my grandfather's sister still living. I hadn't known him. I was finding him in the genealogy. I found Annie Laurie Kiesler Moore, and we went down, Jim and I, to see her. We were eating lunch in her little kitchen in the house that she and her husband had made in 1936. They had built this house. There was a little table in the middle of the room, tablecloth on it, a refrigerator that had more magnets than I've ever seen in my life attached to the side of it. She was late 80s, having trouble with her eyes, but she had made this lunch herself. Fresh tuna salad with Duke's mayonnaise, fresh tuna salad, thick slices of homegrown beefsteak tomatoes right out of her own backyard, and fresh cooked lima beans that she had shelled herself, sweetened iced tea, and biscuits that Annie Laurie had mixed up and made for us that morning. It was a Southern feast for us. But what indelibly marked that memory as one of the best lunches I've ever had is that in the middle, Annie Laurie reached out, took my hand, and held it for a minute and said, Eloise, honey, you and I have the same blood. We do. I could have stayed there for days. And I promise you, I shall never forget her or that lunch. And I remember it through the tastes of the food. I hope maybe that prompts you, starts you thinking about some lunches you've had, some dinners you've had, or just some dishes that someone made for you one time, or that you made yourself, that bring back lots of memories. Thank you for coming. I hope you'll come back. I'll have another story for you.